Good morning, students. Welcome back. So today we'll continue on this revenue recognition. In the previous session, we discussed about AS9, right? So today we first of all plan to complete this AS9 because we can say that some part on this AS9, certain topics over there are still left. And then we also plan to move on to AS7, that is again a continuation of revenue recognition as we discussed, but that will be more specific to the different types of contracts. Okay. All right. So before we really get further with some more topics, what we will do is we'll just do a quick recap in terms of whatever we have covered so far. Okay. So I think the most important aspect is about the revenue recognition criteria. So can you tell me what is the basis for revenue recognition as per AS9? What is the criteria? Yeah, so we discussed about some criteria which you'll use for revenue recognition. So can you tell me what is that criteria? So if the revenue is to be recognized, what criteria you will follow? I think there were some conditions. So can you just help me understand those conditions? What are those conditions which the entity will have to follow for the purposes of revenue recognition? Okay, great. So I can see Imas, Rohan, Smriti, they are answering. Ishan says it's about the significant risk and rewards that should be transferred. Okay. Then I think Smriti has added to this. She's saying there should be no significant uncertainty around the collection. Correct? Yeah. Okay, I can see more responses from Devu, Tanu. Very good. Now, in relation to revenue recognition, of course, we talked about the meaning of revenue, wherein the important aspect was to understand that if there is any transaction, whether it is related to sale or any sort of income, which will arise within the entity, that you will not consider as revenue. Correct? Further, for the revenue, there are some criteria we talked about. Yeah. Okay. So that's about the significant risk and reward. That's about the collection one needs to look into. That's also about the property in which that has to be transferred to the buyer. Okay. Now, in respect of this revenue recognition, we also discussed that every sort of situation, whether it is related to goods, whether it is related to services, or a mixture of these two, is covered, except for construction contracts and except for some exclusions. Now, for services, there are two methods we talked about. One, when the contract is completed, that is when you recognize revenue. Second, you don't wait for the contract to be completed. Over the period, you recognize revenue, which is also called as percentage completion, and over which we discussed that we are going to cover this in more detail. Okay, so when we pick up this AS7, because that is where percentage completion is significantly covered, right? Now, as regards these two methods, in both the cases, if you have to move on to the completed contract method or percentage completion method, so how do you get to know about it? Terms and conditions of the contract. Yeah, so standard doesn't tell you that when to use which one. Standard simply tells you there is a criteria which you have to follow, and on the basis of that criteria, you will be looking at as to whether it should be completed contract or the percentage completion. Yeah. Now, all of these things have to arise from the terms and conditions of the contract. Now, This standard also touches upon some more incomes, you can say. Okay, so let's try to understand one by one as to what are these income and how should the revenue be recognized in relation. Revenue means, of course, income. Okay, so that means how should these income be recognized? What is the criteria? Again, it's very simple. Okay, and we do not have any sort of detailed further criteria in respect of some of these items. Yeah, so let's try to pick up to what will you follow, and then we'll look at some example again. Now, interest income. I think interest income is quite common to everyone. So interest income, an entity will recognize depending on the terms which are there. And what are the terms? We'll look at the period, you'll check how the interest is required to be computed. So on the basis of accrual, you will compute it. So that's what you call as time proportion basis. Means over time you will recognize interest. Over time means, let's suppose there's a loan which the entity has given for 3 years. So every year interest will be recognized. Yes or no? Next, royalty income. Now royalty income again, standard says on an accrual basis. Dividend income. When the owner's right to receive payment is established, that is when this dividend income has to be accrued, has to be recognized. Simple. Yeah. So these are the criteria. Now, in all of these criteria, actually, there is nothing specific except for one. It's about accrual. Yeah. So you need to find out when do you accrue. The moment you say that you accrue, that is when you recognize. Correct. So now what we will do is we'll pick up some examples. Okay. So just give me a minute. What I'll do is I'll just take you to some examples and we'll just discuss those. Okay, so let's look at this example number 4. During the year ended 31st March X1, ZX Enterprises has recognized 100 lakhs on accrual basis as income from dividend on units of mutual funds held by it. Okay. Now, dividend on mutual funds were declared on 15th June 2000 X1. Dividend was proposed on 10th April X1. You need to comment whether the above treatment is as per the requirements of accounting standard or not. Over to you. So without looking at the solution, please try to answer this. Okay. And as we discussed, it's all generic. Generic means it's all about accrual. So you need to just find out that when will the accrual happen? Yes or no? Yes, tell me. So when do you recognize this dividend income? What will be more appropriate? Tell me quickly. Okay, great. Rohan says accrual will happen on 15th June. Chirandeep says 10th of April. Ishan says 15th of June as the dividend is declared on that date. Devu says, okay, so I think missed out. Devu says 15th June. Okay, Tanisha is also going with 15th June. I think Soumya has the same answer. Almaz and Pooja have the same answer. Meenu has same answer. Okay, great. Now, I think Pawan has also got same answer. Okay, great. Now, in this case, we need to check that for the shareholder, when is the right to receive dividend payment established? On 10th of April, dividend is only proposed. Okay, which you can say is approved on 15th June. Declared means approved only. Can we say that right to receive dividend payment gets established on 10th of April? Answer is no. When does that happen? 15th of June. So therefore, when do you recognize this? 15th June. 15th June. Yeah, I think Rohan has the same answer, right? Therefore, in the given case, the accounting treatment, now in the exam, please remember, you need to answer the question. Okay, so of course, in the first para, you are explaining, but the conclusion has to be given. So there is a recognition of 100 lakhs in the financial year X1. Can we say it's correct? No. Yeah. So please don't forget, in the exam, you need to be specific. Charandeep is asking, sir, what is the meaning of dividend proposal and who proposes dividend? Okay. So see, as regards dividend, there are two steps. And I'm sure when it comes to the cost of a company, means dividend, where a company will declare, company will also have to recognize this. Yeah. So in that case, you would have covered this. And that will be again the similar steps which the company will look into. What is first? First of all, board of directors will propose dividend. Okay? Or you can say at one level, they will finalize that this is the dividend which we propose to pay. Yeah. Then the board will take this to AGM, to the shareholders. And at the AGM, shareholders will approve this. Yeah. Okay. These are the two steps you find in case of dividend. Clear, Charandeep? Yeah, Charandeep, clear? Okay, great. All right. So now, moving on to next step. So we'll pick up one more question. Okay. Question number 5. Y Limited uses certain resources of X Limited. In return, X Limited received rupees 10 lakhs and rupees 15 lakhs as interest and royalties respectively from Y Limited. Okay. So you can say Y Limited has made two payments to X Limited. One for interest, second for royalty. Okay, during the same year. It's X1, X2. You are simply required to comment what will be the basis of revenue of both the items. For interest, for royalty. I think it's very simple. So tell me, just need to explain the basis of revenue recognition. So you can say criteria for income in respect of interest and royalty. Great. Ishan says interest on time proportion basis, royalties on accrual. Yeah. I think Soumya has the same answer. Right. Ron is saying accrual basis. That's correct. Okay. Almaz has explained this. Very good. Same answer. Somya is saying royalty on accrual basis. That's correct. Yeah. So very simple, right? So what do you do? So you will say interest needs to be recognized on time proportion basis. Means over time you will recognize this. Yeah. Over time you will recognize this. So that's the criteria you'll follow in case of interest. For royalties, what do you do? Again, accrual basis. So during the year, do you recognize both these incomes? Yes. Right? You recognize both these incomes. Okay. Now what we will do is we'll pick up one more question. I think up a different topic. Let's move on to that topic. It's about agency relationship. I think Devu has just answered this. Great. So it's about agency relationship. So let's try to understand what is this agency relationship and what is the relevance, what is the context. Okay. First of all, what I'll try you to do is I'll just try to help you understand the context. Okay. Means what are we trying to cover now? So with the help of an example, we'll discuss this. This is called as gross versus net recognition or principal versus agent. Gross versus net means whether you will do the accounting on gross basis or net basis, and whether the entity will be considered as principal or the agent. Okay. So now let's suppose there are three companies. A Limited. Then let's suppose you have another limited. Okay, then there is another company, C Limited. Right? Okay, so now what we are trying to do is we are just trying to first of all establish. So say A is planning to sell some goods to C. Yeah. Now, either A can send the shipment or the goods directly to C, or they can be sent through B. So they are sent to B and B is then sending to C. Let's suppose A has sold the goods for 100 to B. B in turn has sold the goods to C for 150. Okay. Now, for us, as far as A is concerned, what will be the amount of revenue that A Limited will recognize? Can you tell me? What is the amount of revenue that A Limited will recognize? Can you tell me? 100. I think it's very simple. I can see a lot of responses on Shiv, Smriti, Soumya, Pooja, Ishan. Yeah, very good. So that's why we are not discussing about A Limited here. We are going to discuss about the basis of revenue recognition by B only. So there are two ways B Limited can recognize revenue. Let's try to understand. Okay. So we can say situation one. B will record a cost 100, sales of 150. Situation number two, scenario number two, we will just simply record a margin of rupees 50 in this transaction as income. This first basis, okay, so this first basis, what do you call it as? Gross basis of account. If let's suppose B records 100 as cost, 150 as sales, then what do you call it as? Gross basis of accounting. Second is what you call as a net basis of account. Net basis of account. Okay. Now the question arises, sir, can B Limited record either way? No. That again depends. See, B Limited will record on gross basis if B is considered as the principal in the transaction. And B will have to record on net basis if B is considered as agent in the transaction. Okay. Now another question arises. Okay, sir, it's understood that gross, net, when is that required to be recognized? That's not an option. That's dependent on whether B is a principal or the agent. But how do we get to know that in this transaction, okay, in this transaction, B is an agent or the principal? How do we get to know? Okay. So there are some criteria we can look at. First, see, in this transaction, we need to find out who has got the debtor risk. Debtor risk means for this collection to be received from C, who carries the risk? Is it B or A? For example, if C doesn't make the payment tomorrow, can B go to A and say that I have not received, so that's why I'll not pay this to you? Yeah. So who has the collection risk? Who has the collection risk in this case? Okay. So that's what you need to find out. No. So I think Shiv, Tanisha, you are trying to answer this. There's no answer. You'll have to find out that who will have the collection risk. How can you say that it's B or A? We don't know. Nidhi is asking, sir, situation 2 में cost नहीं लिखेंगे. You tell me, Nidhi, can we write the cost? Tell me quickly. Nidhi, you are there? Can you please pick up? In this situation 2, you tell me, can we write the cost? Nidhi, over to you quickly. Please pick up fast. Tell me quickly. Please pick up. Please put your audio on. Please raise hand. Let's discuss this. Let's discuss this quickly. Nidhi, please raise hand. Yes. Yes, quickly, Nidhi.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Nidhi. Yes, tell me. So how can you write cost in situation 2? Tell me. So what is the cost that you'll write? Tell me. For B, what is the cost?
B के लिए cost sir 150 है ना?
150 तो उसकी सेल है. So how can that be a cost for 150?
तो B के लिए तो कोई cost है ही नहीं.
Then how will you write the cost? You tell me if there is no cost. See, there are two ways. Either you'll say that B has purchased for 100. Okay. B has purchased for 100, so 100 is the cost. B has sold for 150, so 150 is the sale. That you'll do in situation 1. Situation 2 is when you are saying that B is earning 150 rupees on this transaction. So let's call this 50 as the income of B. So how do you get 50? How do you get 50? Can you tell me?
Sir, differences between purchase cost and sell.
Okay, so in such a case, do you think you will again write cost?
Sir, no.
No. Okay, now clear on this?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. Now, continuing on this. So one, of course, we looked at debtor risk. Second, if let's suppose tomorrow this inventory is lost, say in transit, who will bear the risk? Will it be B or A? See, if the collection risk is with B, then B is the principal, not the agent. If the inventory risk is with B, then B is the principal and not the agent. Otherwise, B is the agent. Third, price decision. Now, as regards these goods, okay. Now, whether these goods will be sold to C at rupees 150 or 90 or 200 or say rupees 40, who will decide this? Will it be decided by A or B? That is what you need to find out. Okay. Because if that will be decided by A, then A is the principal and B is the agent. If that is decided by B, then B is the principal and A is the agent. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Pooja is saying, sir, it's based on terms and conditions. Yes, of course. Everything is based on terms and conditions, and that's what you need to find. Then I think Pooja has a query around rupees 50. Pooja, can you please explain this? Over to you. Can you please pick up fast? Pooja, over to you. Yes, quickly, yeah, Pooja. Can you please pick up? Can you please explain what's your query? Pooja, waiting for you. Quickly. Yes, quickly. Please raise hand. Please pick up. Yes.
So in this case, 50 rupees profit if recognized by both means principal and agent, then it profit would be recognized double time, sir.
No, so it will not be recognized double. First of all, you will have to find out whether B is principal or agent.
Means
Isn't
sir,
it? That's what we discussed.
means sir, either principal will recognize or agent will recognize.
No. You will have to find out whether B is the principal or the agent. Accordingly, you will recognize. Yes or no? B cannot be both. Can B become both principal as well as agent? Tell me.
No, sir. But
No.
sir, in this case, you have written that 150 rupees principal will recognize and 50 rupees agent will recognize.
Correct. And that is dependent on the fact whether B becomes the principal or the agent. So if you call B as the principal, then B will do this accounting.
Okay, sir. These both are matlab, on B based on situation. Right?
That's why we are calling it as situation or scenarios.
Okay, sir.
Isn't it?
Okay.
Clear?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then what we will do is we'll just pick a few examples now. Okay. All right. So let's look at this example. Zigato runs a food delivery business. As per the arrangement, Zigato allows customers to order foods from the local restaurant, and it is responsible for delivery of the food within the stipulated time. During a particular year, it collects the money on orders which are made online, okay, as follows. The details of orders I think is given to you. Total price for the food item was 200 lakhs. Delivery charges were 60. GST was 40 lakhs. All in all, total amount which Zomato received was 300 lakhs. Okay. Orders were delivered to the customer within the stipulated time, means revenue recognition criteria was met. In this case, there are two parties. In fact, there are three parties. First of all, it's the restaurant. The restaurant will give the food to Zomato. Then Zomato will give this to the customer. I think similar to what Zomato does or Swiggy does. Yeah, so that's the business model. Now, in this case, we have got two questions. First, how much revenue should be recognized by the restaurants? Okay, so let's talk about restaurant first of all. How much revenue should be recognized by a restaurant? Over to you, quickly. I'm not talking about Zomato in this case. Restaurant, first of all. What should be the amount of revenue which the restaurants will recognize? Yes, quickly. Over to you. Okay, great. Nidhi says 200 lakhs. Devu says, I think 200 lakhs. Julie says only delivery charge. Very good. Tanisha says 200 lakhs. I think Tanu, Almaz, Divya, they are all saying 200 lakhs. Charandeep says 200 plus GST. Anandruthi is saying 200. Okay. Julie and Pooja are saying 200. Now, in this case, see, the restaurant is selling the food to Zomato. Yes or no? Is the restaurant charging for delivery? Answer is no. So, can this 60 lakhs be the revenue of this restaurant? For the GST, can we say that GST is a revenue? No, the GST is a pass-through liability. Yeah, so therefore, for the restaurant, what is going to be the amount of revenue? 200 lakhs. Simple or not? 200 lakhs. Okay, now, let's talk about Zomato. In case of Zomato, one aspect needs to be considered here. That between the restaurant and the customer, is Zomato acting as an agent or the principal? Yes or no? That is what you need to find out. Because depending on the role of Zomato, its revenue will change in terms of the amount. So you need to assess that first, and then you can just tell me the amount. Over to you. Tell me. How should Zomato recognize revenue? Number one. And what should be the amount of revenue for Zomato? Over to you. Quickly. Over to you. Great. Nidhi says 40 lakhs. Tell me quickly. Can you explain, Nidhi, why 40 lakhs? Julie says for Zomato, it's only delivery charge. Okay. Soumya says 60 lakhs. Charandeep says 60. Tanu says 60. Nidhi says because GST is Zomato revenue. See, GST is not a revenue. Please understand. Huh? Ishan says 60. I think everyone is saying 60. Rohan, Pooja, Anand, Rathi. Yeah, it's all 60. Very good. Divya, Prem, They are all saying 60. And why do we say it's 60 lakhs? Harsh says 60. Because in this case, Zigato is acting as the agent. Yeah, Tanisha, Mohammed, they have explained this. Nidhi has also explained this. See, Zigato is not the principal. Zigato is only the agent. Right? In this case, because Zigato is only the agent, risk and reward associated with the food, they are not with Zigato. Who is responsible for that? Restaurant. When the customer orders the food, whether the item will be prepared or not, who is responsible? Restaurant. Only the delivery responsibility is with Zigato. Yeah. Therefore, Zigato is acting as an agent. Yeah. So therefore, what is the amount of revenue which Zigato will recognize? 60 lakhs only. Okay. Now, in this case, can you tell me if, let's suppose, Zigato was considered as a principal? Let's assume, okay? Don't get confused. I'm not saying Zigato is the principal. I'm saying if, let's suppose, Zigato was the principal, then how will Zigato record this? What is the accounting requirement on the part of Zigato? Over to you. Tanisha says 260 lakhs will be the revenue. Okay. Nidhi says 40 lakhs GST कौन pay करेगा? Yeah, I'll come to your point. Okay. Charandeep says gross basis. So which means it's not only 260 lakhs as the call. Please remember. Okay. So it's not only about the cost that you need to look at. Sorry, not only about the revenue that you need to. You also need to look at the cost. Very good. So I think Mohammed Farhan has explained this. He's saying in such a case, Zigato will record a cost of 200 lakhs. Okay, the food that he receives, it receives from restaurants, 260 as the sales. Very good, right? Okay. Now, before we move further, I understand there are some clarifications you require. Yes, over to you. Any questions, any doubts that you may have, please let me know. Then we'll pick up one more example. Over to you quickly. Any questions, any doubts that you may have so far? Please raise hand, please pick up. I think, Prem, you will have to explain this. If you can just please pick up, elaborate. Everyone, any questions? Nidhi, I think you need to elaborate on this. You are asking for your answer, but till the time you don't explain the question, how can we answer? Over to you quickly. Please pick up fast.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, my question is that, sir, in case of credere agent, the agent gives guarantee to the principal for the collection of the debtor.
Who
So,
is a
in this,
credere agent? Can you please explain?
sir,
What is the role of this agent? You need to
he gives,
explain the complete transaction. Huh?
so in GST we learn that he gives um, guarantee that he will give all the money to the principal for the collection of debtors.
Okay,
So, a kind of guarantee it gives.
right.
So in this case, he will call
So
as a gross. He
is
will
it
record.
like a role of a recovery agent? that
Yes,
I'll
sir.
get this money recovered from the customer on your behalf. Is it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what's your question?
So in this case, he will act as a principal
See,
and record.
in this case, again, what you need to find out is that principally what is the responsibility, what are the risks which the agent has taken up. See, because the nature of business of agent is such that he is going to get the money collected. Okay, so that's why can we say that there is any cost which agent has taken up? For example, if you look at ARCs, okay, so what do ARCs do? ARCs will buy the receivable from the company. That's what they do. And later on, they will collect on their own. So that's why receivables which they buy is their cost. And when they collect, that's their revenue in a way, right? Same goes with the DACA. Okay, I'm not sure as to what term is this. I have not dealt with any DCA or any such concept, but there again you'll have to find the similar sort of arrangement, that what is the cost for DCA. Is there any cost for the DCA, or is it only on papers that DCA is saying that I'll go get the money collected? If I'm not able to collect, I'll give it to you. Okay, because if that is the case, it's only about an agent. Okay, there's no cost as such. So agent will charge a commission for this, and that's it. Okay, in which case DCA should be considered as the agent and not the principal. So you may be thinking that, sir, what about the guarantee? So that's the role, that's the nature of the business of the DCA. That sometimes if there is a default, then DCA will have to pay, not always. So that's how this business model will run. Okay. Clear, Prem? I think Rohan has a query. Then I think Harshda, you need to explain. Yes, Rohan, please go ahead. Then I think
Sir,
Harshda, you have a yes.
can you repeat that inventory risk part?
Inventory risk part means that in relation to the goods, who will be responsible for that? For example, if you look at Zogato, okay, in the given example, if let's suppose we talk about the food, because inventory is what? Food. Okay. So who is having this responsibility? Is it the restaurant or Zogato? If you say it's restaurant, then restaurant is the principal, Zogato is the agent. If you say Zogato, then Zogato becomes the principal and not the agent. Okay.
Sir, if risk is with uh, Zigato, then he is principal.
Right. So that's how you'll look into it. Correction risk you'll check, inventory risk you'll check, price decision you'll check. Okay. So these are some of the factors you'll check. So main point is you need to find out that what are these two parties trying to do? What is it, the arrangement in substance between them? In substance, whether this Zogato is acting as the principal or the agent. Okay. So you need to find out in substance, what is the role? What are the responsibilities? What are the risks? That's how you'll have to decide. Some of these factors you will consider for that decision. Okay. Then I think Hashda has a query. Nidhi, I think you had a query. Quickly, please pick up fast if you have any queries. Hashda, Nidhi, over to you quickly. No further queries?
हेलो
Yes.
सर भाई जीएसटी वाला क्लियर नहीं हो पाया कि जीएसटी
Sorry?
कौन पे करेगा सर जीएसटी कौन पे करेगा यही क्लियर नहीं हुआ है कि रेस्टोरेंट
GST
करेगा
क्या करेगा? Sorry, please explain quickly.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है ना कि जैसे हम प्रिंसिपल और एजेंट की बात कर रहे हैं तो जो
Right.
रिस्पॉन्सिबल होता है वही जीएसटी पे करेगा तो यहाँ पे रेस्टोरेंट करेगा या जिगैटो करेगा बस यही कंफर्म करना
Okay, so let me just help you understand about this GST. And GST is not something which is relevant for this situation. It's relevant for any other situation. Okay, so forget about principal or agent. So this is something you'll have to evaluate in every case. Let's suppose A sells goods to B for 100. Okay, 100
Yes,
is
sir.
the sale price and
Yes, sir.
GST is 18. So in this case, question is that should A recognize revenue as 100 or 118,
Yes, sir.
right? Now, see, 18 is the GST amount which B will pay. Yes or no?
Yes.
So B will pay to A and A will then pay this to government.
Done, sir.
So that's why, as far as this 18 rupees is concerned, it's a pass through. Pass through means actually this amount is
Yes.
required to be paid by B, but
Yes,
B
sir.
is not paying this to the government directly. B is giving this to A is giving this to government.
Mm.
That's why it is also
Okay.
called as indirect tax.
Yes, sir.
Understood?
Understood.
So
Yes, sir.
any tax is not a part of revenue. So what is going to be the revenue? 100.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is the fundamental
Yes,
you
sir.
need to consider everywhere, not in case of principal or agent. Clear?
Okay, done, sir. Done.
Okay. Then I understand Harshda has a query. Yes, Harshda. Harshda. Yes, quickly. Harshda. If you just raise hand, then I think team will unmute you. Yes, Harshda. Please go ahead.
So actually my concern is I just wanted to understand the GST impact in the books of Zigato as it's an e-commerce operator.
Mm-hmm.
So in the as per the reverse charge mechanism that Zigato will means how it will record in the books for the GST for
So see,
accounting perspective.
there are two different aspects involved, Harshda. One is to understand GST implications. Okay, so if your query is around GST implications, then I think this is not the right place because we are looking into accounting and I am not a GST expert anyways. Number one.
Okay.
Number two, if you are looking at the accounting of GST, then you need to tell me that what is the GST implication first of all to begin with. As far as any GST implication is concerned, this is what I have explained you. That if let's suppose there is any GST amount which the seller will charge, if let's suppose seller charges any GST amount, so can that be a revenue? Can that be recognized as revenue? Answer is no.
No, right.
Okay, so that's how you need to look into it. Now, your question that let's suppose A when sells to B doesn't charge any GST. Why? Because there's not going to be any GST implication as far as A is concerned. So that's why what B will do is B will pay the GST in the reverse charge mechanism. So in such a case, that's an amount which B will have to pay and B will take the input credit for that. As far as A is concerned, there's no implication of that GST. Yes or no?
Right.
So there again, it's like an item which could be a cost for B or which could be an input credit, a kind of receivable for B. Okay, that again is not very relevant as far as revenue recognition is concerned. Why? Because we are looking at the accounting requirement of only A. Understood? So I
Yes.
think somewhere there is a confusion in your mind that if let's suppose there's RCM, so how that is going to impact the seller. So seller is not going to get impacted. Okay, of
Right.
course,
Seller
B
will-
will have a lot of implications, but B will have various other implications. So why to get into that? Otherwise, we'll just sort of drift from the subject we are discussing. Okay, clear?
Okay.
All right. Then I understand Rohan has a query. Yes, Rohan. Rohan, you have
Sir,
raised hand. Yes.
sir, I want to understand the procedure of this
What is
agent
the
and
meaning of procedure?
sir, once the order will be received by whom? Restaurant or Zigato?
Right.
Zigato order.
So you need to explain. I think you are using very few words. You are not explaining your query. I am not clear on your query.
Sir, what order will be received by Zigato or restaurant?
See, that you need to find out in the arrangement. Okay, so there's no standardized arrangement. Please understand. Every time you need to look that into the question. So if you are asking me, sir, will it happen that the order will always be received by Zigato or will it be received by the restaurant? There's no standardized answer. Okay, so let's go back to the question. You need
Sir,
to
I'm
understand this
asking.
in the question. Just a
I'm
minute.
asking in what about the real life,
Now, in the
practical.
real life, are you aware of Zomato or Swiggy?
Sir, aware but not of who received the order or that thing.
So it's not about who receives the order or not. So there is an application of Zomato or Swiggy. So that is where you place your order. Okay, you can just try doing this anytime. Maybe today you place an order for food. So what do? You will place the order to Zomato or the Swiggy. So your order
Yes.
goes to Zomato or Swiggy and they will inform the restaurant. So that's how it works. That's the role of Zomato or Swiggy.
Then after collecting the amount of 300 lakhs, it keeps the 60 lakhs and give the balance amount to the restaurant.
It should,
Okay, sir.
right?
Okay.
All right. Any more questions if you have? Any more questions? No? Okay, so then I think we have got one more example. Let's look at it. Again, very much on the similar lines. TripDeal is a website, again, similar to what you see in case of Ease My Trip or Make My Trip. Yeah. TripDeal is a website that allows people to book airline tickets. As a part of the business, it agrees to buy 100 tickets from an airline on a particular date and resells those tickets to the customers. However, TripDeal bears the loss for any unsold tickets. In the above example, risk and reward relating to the tickets are borne by whom? Tell me, is it the airlines or TripDeal? What do you think? Is it the airlines? TripDeal? Yes or no? It's TripDeal, right? Hence, sales made for the tickets will be fully recognized as part of the revenue of TripDeal. Why? Because TripDeal in this case is acting as the, can you tell me, in this case, TripDeal is acting as the agent or the principal? Very good. Ishan says principal. Julie, I think Pooja, Somya, they have the same answer. Chirandeep has the same answer. Very good. Yeah. Okay. Then I think Tanu has the same answer. Right? Clear? Everyone? Okay. And I think maybe let's pick up one more question and then we'll move on to the next accounting standard. Okay. Let's discuss one more just to practice. Okay. So now, so let's look at this question number 7. Fine. A claim lodged with the railways in March X1 for loss of goods of rupees 2 lakh had been passed for payment in March X3 for rupees 1,50,000. So there's a claim which was lodged with railways in March X1. So there's one financial year X0, X1. Why? Because some goods were lost. So this seems to have been approved after 2 years in X2, X3. And when the approval has come, the approval amount is 150 instead of 2 lakhs. In X0, X1, the company, when they lodged the claim, they didn't pass any accounting entry. Okay. Now you need to advise P Company Limited about the treatment of the following in the final statement of accounts for the year ended X2, X3. Now, please remember in X0, X1, no accounting was done for this claim. Okay. So in X2, X3, when P Limited will record this, how should this be treated? Over to you. So this is not about gross or net. Yeah, in relation to the revenue recognition or the income, etc., that we have discussed. You need to apply your thoughts. Please don't look at the solution. I would request everyone just try to attempt this on your own. Over to you. Quickly. Tell me, what do you do in this case? What will be the accounting requirement on the part of P Limited in this case? Okay, so I can see some responses coming up. Ishan says loss of 2 lakh and subsequent income compensation of 1,50,000. Devu says P should recognize 1,50,000. Okay. Soumya says recognize 150 when received, means cash basis. Shiv says 50,000 will be booked as loss. In which year? Prem says it will be considered as other income because claim was no, so that's fine. Whether you call it as other income or any other income. What is the amount you will record? How will you record it? Rohan says it's a prior period item. Okay. There was some error. Very good. Mohammed says in X1, record for loss of goods of 2 lakhs. X3, record for compensation on loss of goods, 1,50,000 as income. Okay. Smithi's, I think I shared the accounting entry. Tanisha says 1,50,000 when it is passed as passed for payment. That's when the income will be recorded. Pooja says 1,50,000 as revenue and 2 lakh as liability. I'm not clear, okay, on this accounting requirement. Ja. Tanu says 50,000 recorded as what? As loss. Okay. Good that everyone tried this. Yeah, so it doesn't matter whether your answer is correct or incorrect. It's good you are attempting. Very good. Shiv says 50,000 will be booked as loss in the current year. Okay, and what about 1,50,000? I think somewhere you tend to forget the accrual concept. Okay, so that's what I can, sort of make out from some of your responses. I'm not talking about everyone, some of you. Please remember that as far as any accounting requirement is concerned, accrual concept has to be followed. Okay, now, in this case, if we look at this arrangement, okay, and this entire transaction which has taken place, collectibility of the claim was not certain in the earlier periods, right? When is this claim passed for payment? Means it's not about when the payment is made. When is this claim approved? X2, X3. right? And if you look at the claim amount, so the entire claim amount has not been approved even in X2, X3. Only a portion of that is approved, 1,50,000. So now if you go back to X0, X1, question says no entry was passed by the company in that year. Now the first thought is that was that an error? Answer is no. Why? Because when you lodge a claim, so you are not sure whether that's been approved or not, or whether that will be approved or not. So can you recognize a revenue or any income when there is a uncertainty attached in relation to the collection? No. So not recording this in X0, X1 was definitely not an error. Okay. Now in the next year, X2, X3, sorry, X1, X2, question arises, should that not be recorded in the next year? We don't know, because no information about X1, X2 is available. So there again we'll assume it's correct. X2, X3 is the year when the claim is approved. But there again up to 1,50,000, not the entire amount. So that's why, what should you do? Now you need to apply the accrual concept. Yeah, you will not wait for the payment. When it is passed for payment, you will record this as income. So therefore, this 1,50,000 should be recognized as income. In which year? X2, X3. Question arises, what about remaining 50? Remaining 50 revenue or income cannot be recognized. Why? Because that has not been passed for payment. In the subsequent years, if that 50,000 also gets approved, that can be recognized, but not today, not in the current year. In this case, another aspect is important to be looked into about extraordinary item. Okay, prior period we have discussed, it's not a prior period item. As to why we have discussed why it's not a prior period item. Can it be an extraordinary item? Okay, so then I think on the extraordinary item, we go back to S5. It says when the items of income or expense from ordinary activities, sorry, this is about exceptional, are of such size, nature, incident that their disclosure is relevant to explain the performance. That is when you disclose that. But that should be the one which is in relation to the ordinary activity. So can we say it's in relation to the ordinary activities? Answer is yes. Clearly, it's related to the business of the entity. So that's why it's not extraordinary in nature. Yeah. So extraordinary again goes out of the picture, but exceptional remains. So that's why what will you do? You will call it as exceptional item. Now there again you may have thought, but sir, this amount is too small. Okay, this amount is too small. So will it really meet the criteria? That's what you need to find out. And that's what you are just trying to explain. Okay, in the solution of this. Clear? Everyone clear on this? Yeah? Everyone clear? Mohammed is asking, sir, what about 2 lakhs, which was lost in X1? See, I think one point which you tend to forget every time is that what is the context? Means, what are we trying to look at? Are we discussing about the cost? No. So, in this particular standard, there is a discussion on revenue recognition. For a company to recognize revenue, you may say during the year company will incur a lot of costs when the inventory will be sold. So the consumption cost will be booked or not. But do we jump onto that accounting along with this revenue recognition? No. So you need to just stick to the revenue recognition. Okay. Yeah. So now, as far as 2 lakh is concerned, when this claim was lodged with the railways for 2 lakhs, okay. So when you're saying that no entry was passed in the books, so that's in respect of revenue. That's not in respect of loss of goods. So we are assuming loss of goods has already been recorded by the company. If you are saying, sir, how can we assume? So if let's suppose you don't assume that, okay, you say no, sir, we can't assume. Huh? So let's do that accounting. So in such a case, what will you say? That loss was not recognized by the company. Then recording of such loss in the current year will be a prior period item. Why? Because there was no reason for the company not to record the loss. Yes or no? Yes or no? But is that the subject matter? Answer is no. So that's why you should not get confused. Like for example, in the previous one, we talked about GST, we talked about RCM. Yeah, so all of these things are what? All of these things are separate from revenue recognition. So you need to just stay in the subject. So don't get distracted. Of course, question may have a lot of accounting implications. So you may have a concern, but sir, question is not clarifying as to what is required to be done. So if you try to answer that completely, okay, then you need to just look at each and every aspect. Clear? Mohammed, clear on this? Mohammed, clear on this? Very good. Okay. All right. Any more questions? Any more questions? Any more doubts if you have? Please let me know. Then we'll pick up the next standard. Okay, so we'll move on to AS7 then. Huh? Now, Rohan is asking, sir, is this exceptional item? So that's what we discussed. Huh? You need to find out and you need to explain that this needs to be considered as an exceptional item. Again, depending on the amount. Yeah. Right. Any more questions? Quickly, any more questions if you have? Any more doubts if you have, please let me know. No further questions? All right, so then what we will do is we'll just move on to the next accounting standard, that is AS7. Okay, I'll just open the document, just give me a minute. Okay, now AS7, as we discussed earlier also, okay, briefly we touched upon this. AS7 is all about construction contracts. Yes or no? So here again we'll be talking about the recognition of income, the recognition of revenue, but that will be only in respect of construction contracts. Okay. So that's why in this standard, entire discussion that we are going to have will be all around the construction contracts. Now, as around the construction contracts, Now the next question arises that when we talk about construction contracts, so what is the meaning of that? See, this standard is dedicated to the contractors having construction contracts. Now, what is the meaning of a construction contract? Construction contract, you can say, are the contracts which are negotiated for construction of an asset. Okay, or maybe various assets which are closely interrelated or interdependent, and which take substantial period of time to get completed. So that's how you need to look into it. Now, what is substantial period of time? It's not defined, but generally you will assume that a period of 12 months or more is required for those assets to get constructed or completed. For example, bridge, building, pipeline, road. Construction of these assets is what? Construction contract. Similarly, when there is a construction of a refinery and other complex pieces of plant and equipment, let's suppose a factory is getting set up. Okay, so in case of factory, what will happen? Building will be constructed, plant and machinery will be purchased, that will be installed, so it will be set up. So it may again take 2 to 3 years to be set up. So that is again an example of construction contracts, right? Now, first and foremost is to understand what is a construction contract. Now, only and only when you have a construction contract, you will come to AS7. Otherwise, AS7 will not be the relevant accounting standard. Okay, so please remember this aspect. This is very, very important. So what we will do is, we will pick up, I think, some small examples. Entity XY contracts with AB to construct 2 residential buildings in the same premises. Construction of both the building will begin simultaneously. Building material, construction work, other related activities will go on in parallel. This also helps AB to achieve timely completion of 2 buildings. Okay. And a consolidated price for 2 buildings has been negotiated. Above example suggests there is a single contract negotiated to construct 2 buildings, okay, which are interdependent, okay, and which will take substantial period of time, of course. Next, H, a sole proprietor, contracts with DM Construction to dismantle his office premises and construct it from scratch. Now here again, this dismantling means when this will be demolished and a new building will be constructed. What do you call it as? Construction contract. Clear? Everyone clear on this? Yeah. So about the construction contract, are you clear? So there are a lot of requirements in relation to the construction contract that we are going to pick up one by one. But any questions, any doubts, just on the construction contract, you can just ask me quickly. Any questions, any doubts if you have? I think Rohan has a query. Yes, Rohan.
Sir, only single contract is also a criteria for determining construction contract.
See, whether it's a single or multiple contracts is not a criteria at all. Criteria is what? An asset has to be constructed. Okay, and that construction is going to take substantial period of time. For example, a building is getting constructed. So it's a single building. So the construction of the building, what do you call it as? Construction contract. Say 2 parties are there. A Limited will do the construction. So A is the contractor. B is the customer. So B says, please construct this building for me. So what do you call this contract as? Construction contract. And the moment you have a construction contract, where do you go? Do you go to AS9? No. you go to AS7. Clear?
Okay, sir. Sir, means there can be single or multiple contract, no?
Of course,
No matter.
right.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Any more questions? No? Then I think we can take a break now. Yeah. So let's continue on this part after the break, right? Manish, we can take a break now. All right. All right, so let's start. Okay, so now what we will do is, in relation to these construction contracts, we'll discuss a couple of situations. One is about combining of different contracts, and second is about segmenting of a single contract. This concept is also called as combining and segmenting of contract under this accounting standard. Okay. Now, see, when it comes to a construction contract, okay, I'll just give you maybe a brief understanding as to how the revenue recognition has to happen generally. Because a construction contract takes a substantial period of time. Let's suppose it will take 3 years. Okay. And let's suppose the value of construction of building, this entire contract, let's suppose, is for 50 crore. Yeah. So if you look at the contractor A Limited, when should the contractor recognize revenue? There are two options. Either contractor will wait for the building to be completed and then recognize revenue in the 3rd year. Okay. This will be done if the arrangement is such, okay, that when the construction is completed, that's when the revenue has to be recognized. This is also called as completed contract method. Completed contract method. Another type of arrangement could be wherein the customer is getting the benefit each year. So that's why what will happen? Each year, some amount of revenue will be recognized. Some will be dependent on the work completed. Let's suppose in the first year, say 30% work is completed. A will recognize 30% revenue, which is 15 crore. Next year again 30% work is completed, so A will recognize 15 crore. Next year again 40% work is completed, so A will recognize balance 20 crore. Okay, so this second method is what you call as percentage completion method. Means on the basis of work which is completed, revenue will be recognized. So you will not wait for the contract to get completed and then recognize it. Now, around both these methods we'll discuss maybe later on as to how do you apply that, when do you apply that. But idea was to just you give an understanding that because we are looking at the contracts which are for a long period of time. So that's why generally what do you find? Generally you find this percentage completion application. Okay, so that's what you will commonly find. Now, in this relation, there is a concept which is important for us to look into. That is called as combining and segmenting. Now, what do you mean by this combining and segmenting? Combining of contracts or segmenting of a contract. Okay, try to understand this with the help of an example. Let's suppose there is an authority. And this is a project for which authority has invited bids. So a lot of parties have submitted bids. Okay. Let's suppose A Limited also happens to be one of the parties which has submitted bids to the authority. Now, what are the bids for? Means what is going to be the work involved? So there are three works. First of all, a road has to be constructed, let's suppose for 1 kilometer. So let me just call it as work number 1. Then there will be a flyover for 1 kilometer. Let's suppose this is work number 2. And then there will be another stretch of road for 2 kilometers. This is work number 3. Okay. So there are 3 works which are involved here. Now, a lot of companies have submitted bids. See, for administrative convenience, what did the authority do? Authority invited separate bids for work 1, work 2, work 3. And the contract which the authority awarded was to A Limited. Depending on the merits, of course. And again, for administrative convenience, authority awarded 3 contracts. Authority awarded 3 contracts to A Limited for work 1, work 2, work 3 separately. If you look at the value, let's suppose value for this is 10 crore. Say this is 15 crore and say this is 20 crore. Okay, so all in all, if you look at the value, so this is 45 crore for 3 works. Yeah. Now, in this case, if you look at the arrangement between A Limited and the customer, who's the customer here? Authority. Authority is the customer. A Limited will be the contractor. If you look at the arrangement between these two, we need to find out in substance, not in legal form, in substance, what are they trying to do? If you look at authority, how is the authority perceiving, you can say, these 3 works? Which means that tomorrow, if let's suppose A completes work number 1, say work is completed. And now A says, no, I don't want to work on work number 2 and work number 3. Okay, A says, I don't want to work on these 2. So will that be acceptable to the authority? Even though there are different contracts, will that be acceptable? If we say yes, what does it mean? It means these 3 works are not interdependent, they are not interrelated to each other. In which case, they will be kept separate. Okay, so they will be kept separate. Yeah, but if let's suppose after completing work 1, A Limited wants to move out, but the authority says no, you have to complete work 2 and 3. Otherwise, I'll not make the payment for work 1. Or if the payment is made, I'll take the money back from you. Why? Because this is considered as interdependent. Then in such a case, even if there are 3 different contracts, you will be considering them as if It's a single contract for 45 crore. And recognize revenue considering this to be a single contract and not considering these to be three different contracts. Okay. So therefore, if you look at this principle, what does it say? It says that if there are three different contracts, but those are interlinked, they are dependent on each other, then for accounting purposes, you will not consider those as three. You will consider that as one single contract. That is called as combining of contract. You will combine them and then do the accounting. How will the accounting be done? That is again dependent on the terms and conditions, okay, which is generally percentage completion. And let's suppose in this case, there's a single contract for 3 works between A Limited and authority. Yeah. But they are not interlinked. They are not dependent on each other. Okay, they are not dependent on each other. In such a case, what will you call them as? Independent. And therefore, even though there is a single contract, for accounting purposes, you will segment them. Segment means you will break them into 3 parts and then do the accounting. That is what you call as segmenting of a contract. Okay. So there could be a combining of contracts or there could be a segmenting of contracts. Everyone clear on this? Clear on the concept? Then we'll pick up one example. Over to you quickly. Everyone clear? What is combining? What is segmenting of a contract? Great. Tanisha, I think everyone is clear. Yeah? Clear? Very good. All right. So now what we will do is we'll just pick up one example, okay, and try to understand with the help of that example about the same concept, about the segmenting and combining. Okay, so let's look at this one. XYZ Construction Limited, a construction company, undertakes the construction of an industrial complex. Okay. It has separate proposals raised for each unit to be constructed in the industrial complex. Since each unit is subject to separate negotiation, he is able to identify the costs and revenues attributable to each unit. In this case, okay, now the question is, should XYZ treat construction of each unit as a separate construction contract or should that be combined? Over to you. So how should this be treated? Please explain how should this be treated? Quickly, how should this be treated? Great. Just a minute. Devu says separate contract. Can you explain why Tanu says separate? I think Charandeep has the same answer. It seems everybody is answering separate. But can you tell me why? Can you please explain why you are considering this to be separate? Ishan says, sir, each unit is separate. There is no interdependency. Very good. Soumya says, since separate proposals have been made, so that's one point to it. Smriti says, It's a separate contract because there are separate negotiations. Rohan says because there are separate negotiations. Devu says also because of the fact that we can identify the cost and revenues for them separately. Tanu says because separate proposals have been given. Yeah. Now, in this case, Somya says they are independent. Very good. So now, in this case, XYZ is required to treat construction of each unit as separate. Why? Because it appears those are not interlinked. Those are independent. Those are independent. Clear? Yeah. Okay, I think Pooja has also explained this. Separate contract because separate negotiation is there. Cost and revenue can be recognized. Sorry, recognized and of course I think identified. Of course, you will recognize obviously, but depending on the criteria you follow, right? Clear? Okay, now moving further. Now, in relation to this construction contract, okay, so whether combine them, okay, or you keep them as separate or you segment them, it's a separate thought process. This standard talks about two types of the contracts which are possible. Now, what are those two types? One is the fixed price contract. Fixed price contract means the contract in which the price is fixed. Or maybe the rate is fixed. Okay? So the pricing is fixed. So the contract is for rupees 35. Another type of contract is cost plus, wherein the amount of revenue is not fixed. It's agreed, let's suppose, between two parties. A is the contractor, that whatever cost A will incur, okay, whatever cost A will incur, A will charge a margin of 10% on that cost. So what do you call it as cost plus? Cost plus means on the cost which will be incurred on an actual basis, a margin of 10% will be added. So that's why you do not have a fixed contract. Okay. Fixed means in terms of the price amount, right? Yeah. So these two types of contracts could be there. Now, the next question is around the revenue. Now, in this case, for you to understand about the contract revenue, I think you need to understand about the transaction first of all. You need to understand the arrangement which is going to be involved in this type of contracts. Now, the moment you will understand the arrangement, I think this concept of contract revenue will automatically become clear to you because this is more of conceptual in nature. Okay, now, let's suppose there are two parties, A and B again. A is the contractor, B is the customer. Fine. As around construction contracts, what do we understand? Generally, what is going to be the feature of a construction contract? Can you tell me? Quickly, what is going to be the feature of a construction contract? I'm not talking about types. Over to you quickly. Quickly. Very good. Smriti says substantial time to complete. Yes or no? Now, because of this, some of the things will automatically come into picture. Let's understand. See, A and B have entered into a contract, and this contract will take 5 years. Some construction has to happen, which will take 5 years. Fine. So initially, what will they do? They will agree on an amount. Yes or no? Let's suppose they have kept the price of the contract as 70 crore. So initially in the contract, this is the amount which they have specified. So what do you call this 70 crore as? Initial amount of revenue. Which is agreed in the contract. Agreed means both A and B have agreed. Yes or no? Both A and B have agreed for this. Correct? Now, because the time involved is 5 years, okay, so that's why some of the things will automatically get associated with this, will be the variations. See, during this long period, what will happen is that today, let's suppose B as a customer has asked for some specifications. B may change. B may say that instead of maybe constructing this part on the first floor, you construct this part on the second floor. Let's suppose that's the construction of a building or a tower. Yeah. So a lot of variations may be involved. Correct? A lot of variations may be involved. That's one. Number two, at times you also find that customer may want to incentivize the contractor. So that's why customer may say that if you complete this work, say in 4 and 5 years, then I'll pay you some additional amount as incentive. Okay. But if you delay this beyond 5 years, then I'll charge some penalty. Okay. That could also be there. Yeah. So there could be incentives, there could be penalties. Yeah. But all of these things are going to happen in future. If you talk about variation, penalties, incentives, they are going to arise in future. Now, over a period of time, what generally happens is that even though the planned period for this contract will be 5 years, see 5 years or 3 years, it's a long period. Okay, because of variations, because of various unexpected circumstances, this period may get extended. Say it may go to 6 years. It may go to 7 years. It may happen. Yeah, it may happen. Now in this case, problem will be there. What's the problem? If you look at the contractor, against this 70 crore of revenue, contractor must have estimated some cost or not? Tell me. Contractor must have estimated some costs. Tell me, over to you. Every time a contractor will estimate some cost or not? Yeah. Now, because this period is going to get extended, which could be because of the additional scope of work, variations which are required by the customer, or at times there could be some unusual circumstances, that estimated cost may increase. Yeah, there could be cost escalations in that. there could be cost escalations in that. Yes or no? Yeah. Now, in this case, if you look at the revenue of a limited, initially it was fixed at 70 crore. And this is also agreed with B. So is there any problem in recognition of 70 crore as revenue? No. Again, depending on the work which will get completed, this 70 crore revenue can be recognized by A easily. Why? Because it's already agreed with B. But if you look at various other components, whether we talk about variation, penalty, incentives, cost escalations, all of these, see, they are quite subjective in nature. And as of now, even though principally it's been agreed between A and B that if, let's suppose, contract gets extended beyond 5 years, I'll charge for escalations. If there are variations, I'll charge for escalations. Okay, such type of clauses could be there in the agreement. But against those clauses, the amount which A will have to bill, that will have to agree between A and B or not. Yes or no? Because tomorrow, if let's suppose A says that you have required construction of one additional floor, which was not there earlier. So both of them will have to agree on that or not. Yes or no? There could be a dispute. They have to agree. Yeah. So A may want to charge X amount, which is X plus 1, but B has to give the approval for the same. Yes or no? Yeah. Therefore, for all of these clauses, all of these changes, which are other than the initial amount of revenue, when do you recognize that? You will recognize that only when it's agreed by the customer. You may be thinking, but sir, accrual has already happened. Okay, A has already incurred the cost on variation. So should we not recognize revenue for variation? No. Why? Because if that's not agreed, that's not accepted by B, B may not make the payment. So can you recognize revenue then? Tell me, can you then recognize revenue? Answer is no. Okay, so that's why for all of these types of components, what do? You will recognize them to the extent it is probable that they will result in a revenue. Means B has agreed for that, B has given approval for the same. Otherwise not. Okay, so let's suppose the 70 is fixed and additionally A is planning to bill 5 crore. So for 70 you can recognize revenue, for which you don't require any further approval of B. But for 5 crore, approval of B is required. Okay, only then it will become probable. Otherwise it will not become probable. Clear on this? Everyone clear about the understanding of contract revenue, about various components of contract revenue? Quickly, any questions, any doubts that you may have on the contract revenue? See, we are just trying to understand as to what is the contract revenue. Okay, and what are going to be various components involved in this. Everyone clear? Okay, very good. I think Smriti, Tanisha, they are clear. Very good. All right. So now let's look at one example to discuss this contract revenue. AB contractors. Now, Please try to understand this carefully. Why? Because it's slightly big question, okay? But it's important you understand it conceptually. Concept is no different from what we have just discussed, right? AB contractors. So contractor is what? AB. Enters into a contract on 1st January X1 with XY to construct a 5-storied building. So who is the customer? Can you tell me? Who is the customer here? Who is the customer? Over to you quickly. XY, right? So that means we have to look at the accounting of AB, not XY, because AB will recognize revenue, right? Under the contract, AB is required to complete the construction in 3 years. That is 31st December X3. Following information is provided. Fixed price means initial amount of revenue which has been agreed is 5 crore. Material cost escalations, any material which will be involved. So a cost escalation has been discussed. Cost escalation means increase in the material cost. So they have agreed that to the extent of 20% of increase in material cost. Labor cost escalation is what? Up to 30% of increase in minimum wages. In case AB is able to complete the construction in less than 2 years and 10 months, it will be entitled for additional incentive of 50 lakhs. Okay, over and above this 5 crore, AB will get 50 lakhs extra. That's an incentive. However, in case construction is delayed beyond 3 years and 2 months, after 3 years, another 2 months is given. Then the customer will charge a penalty of 20 lakhs. So this penalty will reduce the contract revenue or increase the contract revenue? Tell me. This penalty will reduce or increase the contract revenue? Reduce. Very good. I think this is the response from Chirandi, Pooja. Very good. Divya. Okay, great. Now, just a minute. I lost the screen. Just at the start of the contract, AB has a reason to believe that the construction will be completed in 2 years and 8 months. Assume that construction was actually completed in 2 years and 9 months. Okay, then labor cost. It was originally estimated to be 1.2 crore. However, costs have increased by 25%. So is that within the limits? Yes. So they agreed that escalation up to 30% is acceptable. Material costs. Increase was agreed up to 20%. They have increased by 40% due to short supply. Total increase in the material cost due to 40% escalation is 80 lakhs. Okay. You are required to suggest what should be the contract revenue in the above case. Assume that in year X2, XY has requested AB to increase the scope of the contract. An additional floor is required to be constructed. And there is an increase in the contract fee by 1 crore for this additional scope of work. AB has incurred 20 lakhs. That's the cost for getting the local authority approvals, which it will be entitled to claim from XY. Okay, so that is going to be a claim from XY in addition to increase in fixed fee by 1 crore. Also measure the total contract revenue in this case. Total contract revenue means after considering all of these points, what is going to be the total contract revenue? Over to you. Tell me. So I think it will be good if you can just help me with the total contract revenue first of all. Over to you. So what is going to be the total contract revenue in this case? Over to you. Tell me. What is going to be the total contract revenue? So I'm just hoping that you're just onto this, huh? Yeah. Okay, great. I've started receiving responses. Charandeep has computed this. Charandeep is getting 6.5 crore. My suggestion is that please don't look at the solution. Huh? Try to solve this on your own. Charandeep has got the answer. What about others? Quickly, what is going to be the total contract revenue? I don't want various components that we'll discuss. What is the total contract revenue? Okay, Ishan is getting 840 crores. I think you need to revisit your number, Ishan. Okay, 8.4 crore. Okay, that's fine. I think Almaz has got the same answer. 8.4 crore. Okay, very good. What about others? 3 responses so far. What about others? Quickly. Tanu is also getting the same answer, 8.4 crore. Smriti is getting 5.6. So I think I've got 2 different answers so far. One 5.6, second 8.4. Finally, Divya has shared a third answer, 7.4. So 5.6, 7.4, 8.4. Okay, great. Soumya is bringing one more answer, 7.2. Very good. Mohammed is saying 7.5, sir. Okay, very good. What about others? Quickly. Quickly. Tell me quickly. Okay, so let's go to the solution. Huh? Now, see fixed price given in the question, it's 5 crore. So this you will pick up anyways, right? Now, after the fixed price, what do you have? Incentive. Why do you pick up incentive? Because the question says you should assume construction will be completed in 2 years, 9 months. So if the construction gets completed before 2 years, 10 months, incentive will be there, right? So the incentive you will add. What is the amount of incentive? 0.5 crore. Okay, now, for the material, question says 40% increase has taken place, right? But is that 40% increase agreed? No, 20% increase is agreed. So that's why out of 80 lakhs, 40 lakhs will pick up. Because remaining 40 is not accepted by the customer, right? The remaining 40 is not accepted by the customer. Correct? Okay. Now, for labor, originally it was estimated to be 1.2 crore. And a variation up to 30% was acceptable. What is the actual amount of increase? Actually, labor costs have gone up by 25%. So should we pick up 30% or 25? Actual only. Yeah. So 25% on this, 0.3 crore. Right? So if we look at these parts, What is going to be the amount of revenue? 6.2 crore. 6.2 crore will be the amount of revenue. Correct? Now, after that, there is an additional scope. For additional work, 1 crore is fixed. So that you'll add. Further, AB has incurred a cost of 20 lakhs for getting the approvals. And AB will charge this amount to the customer. So AB will recover this 20 lakhs from the customer. So this 20 is also a claim which will be raised to the customer. Yes or no? So what is going to be the total amount of revenue? 7.4 crore. Everyone clear? 7.4 crore. Yeah? Everyone clear on this? Any questions, any doubts if you have, please let me know. Okay, Ishan is clear on this. What about others? Okay, Charandeep is clear. Very good. So I think it's simple. I'm not sure as to why your answers were not matching, but it doesn't matter. Huh? I think I've got one query. I think it's Shiv. Yes, Shiv. What's your query? Please pick up. Yes, Shiv, please go ahead. What's your query? Yes, Shiv, please go ahead. Over to you, Shiv. Please pick up. Yes, Shiv, please pick up fast. Think there's some problem. Okay, so Sangeetvani has a query. Sangeetvani, can you please explain? Can you please elaborate on your query? Yeah? Sangeetvani, what's your query? Please raise hand. Please elaborate. Quickly, please pick up.
Sir, how you arrived at 40 crores, sir? Can you explain that?
Sorry, you're not audible.
Sir, that material cost recovery, no, sir, 40 crores.
0.4 crore.
Yeah, sir, 0.4
Okay.
crores. How
Okay.
you arrived at that?
Right. So if you look at the question, it says material cost escalation to the extent of 20% of increase in material cost is agreed, right? So that means if the material cost, whatever is that amount, if that increases by 20%, that will be paid by the customer. Okay. During the period of the contract, material costs have actually increased by 40%, right? Due to this 40% increase, what is the additional amount contractor is planning to bill? 80 lakhs. Okay. But actually they have agreed for 20%. They have agreed for 20% increase only. So out of 80 lakhs, 20% increase will be paid by the customer. 20% increase will not be paid. So that's why half of this amount you will consider as your revenue. Yes or no? Yeah? Clear on this? Okay, so I think Rohan is also clear. I think he had some confusion earlier. No problem. I understand Shiv has a query. Shiv, if you have any query, you can speak up. No further questions on this? No further questions on this? Yeah? All right. So then what we can do is we can just move on to the next part. Okay. I think Shiv has a query. Yes, Shiv, I'm waiting only. Please pick up fast. If you have any query, then we'll move further. Or maybe you can just park your query towards the end if there's some problem at your end. Yeah. All right. So now what we will do is we'll just move on to the cost side. Okay, so we'll move on to the cost side. Contract revenue we have discussed. Now let's talk about contract costs. Okay. See, if you look at the contractor will estimate that over a period of 3 years, 4 years, 2 years, 5 years, whatever is the contract period, what are the various costs which will be incurred? Yeah. Now, why is that important? Because accordingly, you'll have to be looking at the contract revenue, and these are all direct costs. So the standard says that various types of costs will be incurred. Again, there are different headers available, but I've just tried to explain you the concept. See, any cost which is incurred in relation to the project. What is the project? Construction. So that's why any cost which is incurred, which is linked to the construction of the project. For example, labor will be there. Material cost will be there. Some equipment may be hired for construction. So their rental cost could be there. Depreciation of those equipments could be there if those equipments are owned by the company. Some consultants may be involved. A loan may be taken, so the interest cost on that loan, right? Or any other cost which is incurred by the entity. The moment we say is attributable to the construction will form part of contract cost, or you can say the project cost. But in this case, if let's suppose company is marketing this project, the company is doing some advertisement of this project. So is that cost incurred in relation to that project? Answer is yes. But is that cost incurred by the entity in relation to the construction of the project? Answer is no. Answer is no. So that's why any type of marketing cost will not be added to the cost of the project. Why? Because that is for marketing, that is for promotion, that is for advertisement, that is not for construction. So generally there is an argument on this, but sir, advertisement is for the project only. So that's directly linked to the project only. That's correct. But every time you need to remember that we are looking at the construction costs. Only the construction costs. Means the ones which are linked to the construction. Not the ones which are linked to the marketing or the promotion. Clear? Clear on this? Yeah. So now what we will do is we'll look at one example, I think. Okay. So through this example, we'll just try to get some more clarity. See, ABC Constructions has a contract to build an office building. And what are the terms and conditions? The terms and conditions are ABC has agreed, has around its profit 25% on expected contract cost. Further, it says expected contract cost cannot exceed 22 crore. So what do you call it as? Cost plus. So the cost that you incur, you book a margin on that. Right? Now, in this case, agreed price will be revised dependent on the actual cost incurred. Yes or no? Right? Further, cost of fixation will be taken as actual cost or 22 crore, whichever is lower. Why? Because if let's suppose the actual cost incurred is 23, so can that be picked up? No, because there is an upper limit on the cost. What is that? 22 crore. Okay. So the price fixation will be based on the expected cost. Assume that the costs expected to be incurred by ABC are 16 crore. So therefore, ABC can charge a profit of 4 crore. Why? Because 25% is the markup margin, profit margin. Okay. So 4 crore as a profit can be charged. So what is going to be the amount of total contract revenue? 20 crore. 16 crore cost plus 4 crore profit. Okay. Next. If let's suppose cost incurred by ABC is 15 crore, that case what will happen? On 15 crore, you will pick up 25% margin, 3.7. So the total contract value will become 18.75 crore. Right? 18.75. Correct? Let's suppose we get into another scenario. So there's scenario 1, scenario 2. Let's suppose third scenario. Say if the total cost incurred by ABC is 25 crore, then what will happen? You can pick up only 22 crore as the cost. Okay, on this 22 crore, you will pick up a margin of 25%. Yeah, so it's not 20%, it's 25%. So it comes out to 5.5. In such a case, what will happen? What will be the amount of total revenue? 27.5 crore. 27.5 crore. Everyone clear on this? Yes, tell me. Everyone clear? Any questions so far? Okay, so that's how you will be looking into the construction costs. Okay. Or if at all any cost plus is given, that's how you will be computing your contract revenues. Right? Clear? She was saying, sir, please explain third expense. Okay, third expense. Let me just get on to a working file. Okay, so if you look at the actual cost sheet, what is the actual cost? Actual cost is assumed to be 25 crore. But there's an upper limit to this. Yes or no? Yeah. So this cost is capped at 22 crore. So can the contractor charge anything beyond 22 crore? Tell me. Can the contractor charge? No. So that's why this will be capped to 22 crore. Now on this 22 crore, you will book a margin. Margin is what? Profit margin. So can you tell me what is the profit margin in this case? What is the profit margin? Over to you. Quickly. Ishan is asking, sir, this capping, yes. What is the profit margin in this case? Tell me. Divya says 2.5. No, that's incorrect. Profit margin is 25%. Okay, profit margin is 25%. But will you compute 25% on 25 crore? No. You will compute that on 22 crore. So therefore, what do you get? 5.5 crore. Okay. So therefore, what is the total amount of revenue company will have? 27.5 crore. Shiv, clear on this? Shiv, clear on this? Yeah, I think everybody is getting the same answer. Divya, Soumya. Shiv, can you please pick up? Can you please elaborate on your query? Waiting for you. Shiv, over to you. Can you please explain what's your query? Shiv. All right. Anyone else? Any more queries if you have? Over to you. Any more queries if you have? Everyone, quickly. Any questions, any doubts that you may have so far? Yes, Shiv. Shiv, please go ahead. Shiv, we can't hear you. I think there's some technical glitch. Huh? Okay, no worries. Waiting for you only, Shiv. Yeah, so please let us know whenever you're ready. In the meantime, any other questions, any other doubts, if you have, please let me know. Anyone else? Any other questions? Otherwise, we are through for today. Huh? Okay, so today we have not completed AS7. Of course, some part of AS7 is still pending. Yeah, but as regards this part that we have covered, I would request you to just make sure that you revise that before we meet next. I understand Ishan has a query. Yes, Ishan. What's your query? Yes, Ishan, please pick up. Tell me. Yes, Ishan.
Sir, I was asking like we have calculated 5.5 on 22 crores.
Correct.
So this is the profit margin.
Right.
And we have also calculated further actual profit 2.5 crores.
No, so we didn't calculate actual profit. Okay, we are not required to calculate actual profit. That is only for the purposes of your understanding. For example, in this case, if you look at ABC, okay, so how will ABC prepare the P&L? So if you look at the P&L of ABC, what is going to be the amount of revenue? Can you tell me, Ishan? In the P&L of ABC, what is going to be the amount of revenue? Quickly.
27.
27.
25. Actual
25.
cost.
It will be 27.5. That's the revenue, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Plus profit. Yes.
Yeah, so that's the revenue. And what is going to be the cost for ABC? So then ABC will say my actual cost is 25. Okay, so the profit for ABC will be 2.5. But as far as contractor is concerned, contractor will not, sorry, as far as customer is concerned, customer is not accepting this cost of 25. That's why for computing the amount of revenue, what do you do? You consider 22. Okay. Clear, Ishan?
5.5 is just stipulated profit and 2.5 is actual.
It's not a stipulated profit. You can say that's how you will do the computation.
Okay, sir.
Okay, because stipulated could be lower also. If let's suppose my actual cost is 20 crore, then it will not be 5.5. Amount is not fixed. Please understand, Ishan. Percentage is fixed.
But sir, the capping is at 22 now.
That's why I'm saying amount is not fixed. Percentage is fixed. Okay, so if you have a capping, your percentage goes down. Yeah, so if you look at the books of ABC, its percentage, its actual percentage has gone down because of the capping. But if let's suppose the actual cost is lower than 22, then the percentage is not going down. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any more questions, Ishan? Okay, so then I understand Ron has a question. Yes, Ron.
Sir, in segmenting construction contract,
Right.
um, three separate contracts are made or one single contract is made?
See, that will again depend on the situation that you will have. So that was only an example that I picked up. So every time you will not have three contracts. You'll have to find out how many contracts are there and whether they need to be combined or not.
Sir,
Similarly, if you have a contract, whether you need to segment that or not.
you told that one contract is made and you have to perceive that you have to segment it in three different contracts
But
and
there's a
do a count.
criteria also which I told you. Do you remember that criteria?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so on the basis of that criteria, you will break that. Or on the basis of criteria, you will combine that. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, then I understand Divya has a query. Yes, Divya, what's your query? Divya, what's your query? I think you have some query. Please pick up fast.
Sir,
Yes.
we are computing behalf of customers only, right, sir?
Sorry, your voice is not audible.
Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
We are completing this cost behalf of customers only, right, sir?
Again, I'm losing you in between. Are you referring to this example of 25 crore?
No, sir. I just asking. We are calculating cost behalf of customers only.
No, you are calculating the cost in relation to the project, not on behalf of customer. So you are looking at the contract. So forget the customer. Huh? So there is a project for which cost will be incurred. Of course, the project is for the customer only, but your approach should be to look at the project, not the customer. Huh?
Okay, sir.
That's how a project will be executed. Or that's how a company will be working, isn't it?
Yes.
Right? And that's how the accounting needs to be done. Because if you look at the perspective of the customer, then the customer may have agreed for, say, marketing cost also. Will you form part of that, your project cost? Answer is no, because that's marketing. Right?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Any
Thank
more
you.
questions? Then I think Ishan has a query. Yes, Ishan.
Sir, I want to ask, like in fixed cost method,
Right.
we calculated in a we were having a fixed cost and we were adding some variations and escalations. But in cost, which we did right now, cost plus contract method. So
Right.
in this cost will be already in the contract, or we have to calculate the contract cost.
No, no. So I think that is what you need to now correct. When we talked about contracts, so there are two types of contracts which are cost. One can be fixed fee, second can be cost plus.
Yes.
Okay. These are the two types. In both the cases, whether it is a fixed fee or cost plus, you can have variations, you can have escalations, you can have claims, you can have incentives or penalties. So you should not think that incentives, claim, penalties, all of these things are in relation to fixed fee only. No, they are in relation to the construction contract. Whether that's a fixed fee or cost plus, you need to look into it that separately. That's why if you remember, there was an initial amount of fee agreed. So similarly, there could be an initial amount of cost agreed, that this is the initial estimated cost which they have agreed, Anything over and above that could be considered to be a variation or an escalation. Okay, so that's not limited to fixed fee. Understood?
Yes, sir. So, but the profit will be added in cost plus now
Yeah, so
because
that.
the fixed fee has already profit included.
So let's go back to the same example. Let's suppose the arrangement is that the fixed fee has to be kept to 22. Okay, on the 22, you will pick up a margin of 25%.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now thereby you get 27.5. Further, contractor is requesting that there's a claim which I had to pay to the authority. Okay, so please pay me for that claim. So which is zero point 0.5 crore. Okay. Similarly, the contractor may say that, see, I have completed your project in 2 years instead of 2.5 years, and you agreed you will give me one incentive of 1 crore. So that incentive could also be there. Yes or no?
Yes, sir. But in this, though, sir, it will be cost plus method, cost plus contract. No, this will be a
Yeah.
cost plus.
So that's what I'm telling you, that all of these clauses, variation, escalation, claims, they are not the one which you'll only find in fixed fee. You can always have that in the cost plus also.
Yes,
That's
sir.
what I'm trying to explain you. So don't think that you will find these clauses only in fixed fee. They can always be there in cost plus. Okay.
Yes, sir. So, and in fixed fee, or the profit margin is already included in the fees. No.
Obviously. Obviously.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Sure. All right. Any more questions? If you do not have any further questions, then you can just also feel free to log out because we are through for today's discussion. Yes, I understand Rohan has a query. Yes, Rohan.
Sir, in illustration number 1 that we solved, uh, in that they are segmenting contracts or not.
You tell me, we solved and we discussed. You tell me, should that be a separate contract or not?
No, sir, separate. It is separated
Separate.
and
So that's why
independent
you are calling it
contracts.
to be a segment, or you can say in a way it's segmenting, which is already done. You
Segmenting
will not be
contract.
required to combine this. Okay.
Yes, sir. Sir, we have to
Right.
write in answer now that it is segmenting contract.
See, there's no segmenting contract. Segmenting is not the nature of the contract now. Segmenting is something which you are looking at. Yeah.
Achha.
So it's not the nature. So you will not define that the nature of this contract is segmenting. Segmenting is a concept. So you'll have to explain that this was the total value of the contract, which I have segmented into three parts.
Sir, in the heading it is written, so that's why I
So
thought.
forget about the heading. Heading is for you to make you understand the concept. That doesn't mean that within the
Yes,
heading
yes.
everything will be there. In the exam, when you will have your question paper, you will not be given headings. Okay, so don't go by the headings. Please go by the concept. When we have discussed the concept, so you should go by the concept. Forget about what is there in the heading. Heading is meant for you just to give you maybe a sort of bifurcation. Okay, so this concept you are going to cover at this place. But we are not reading the book. We are discussing the concept. That's why you are in the session, isn't it? Are you
Yes.
reading a book? Yeah, so don't limit yourself by that. For example, when you are covering, say, 20 accounting standards. So every accounting standard has a name, yes or no?
Yes, yes.
But in the exam, do you think every time the question will specify that this question is in relation to AS1, this question is in relation to AS2? Do you expect that for every
No, sir.
question? No. Okay. So that's why I'm saying don't get confused by that, huh?
Okay, sir.
Right. All right. Any more questions? Otherwise, we can just close. Uh, then I think Asta has a query. Asta is asking, I have a query in Dell Cred agent if he is responsible for collecting uh, but will bear the bear. So what's the question? So I think it's a fact, Astha. Maybe you can just speak up, or you can just elaborate on this. Yes, Astha.
Sir, if that agent is burning also bad debts,
What's the question?
then he will be the considered as principal for that.
No, so there again, I told you the same thing. When the agent is involved, what is the work of agent? Work of the agent is to get the money collected from the customer. Okay, and why would he be involved in collection? Because if you look at the entity has not been able to collect. For an entity, it's a kind of bad debt only. That's why the agent has been involved. Yes or no?
Yes,
Otherwise,
yes.
why there is a need to bring in the agent? Okay, so to say that because it's a bad debt, so that's why the agent will now become the principal will not be correct. You need to go by the understanding what is the role, responsibility which the agent is playing. Okay, what is the risk which he is taking up? Is there any cost which is taken up? So if the agent buys this receivable, if the agent has paid the money to the company upfront, so agent says, forget about this entity, I'll recover the money and money I'll take. Okay, you take the money from me and forget about this party anymore. I'll bear, yeah, any loss which is there. Then the agent becomes the principal, otherwise not.
Okay, sir.
Clear?
Okay, sir.
All right. So then I think if you do not have further questions, we can just close this.
Sir, I have made some queries
Yeah.
day before tomorrow.
Yeah.
That
So I think there are a couple of queries which are related to AS22 and I think somewhat on employee benefits. So I'll come back to you on this. Most likely in the next session, we can discuss that. Huh?
okay, sir.
Right. Anyone else? I don't see any further queries now. All right. So then I think we can just close this session. Yeah. So thanks everyone once again for your time today and for this wonderful participation. But please make sure that you revise this up because we are going to continue on this topic in the next session. Okay. So thanks. Yeah, Manisha.